Horror, abjection, liberal regret, gods that fail, fin de siècle aspiration, anxiety over lineal destruction, anxiety over natalism, sunny days, hurricanes, garbage flying in London, murder tents, simplification, hating things, and embracing it. Hate rehabilitated, eating hate, baked goods, taboo, press releases, wearable memes, stalled singing career, contrariana, I'm thinking a lot of things, pronunciation dystopia, anchorite streamer, micro-reactionary, unidirectional bloating versus omnidirectional bloating, prestige pawn, installment, catharsis, Ursula von der Leyen, sometimes vibrating with rage, life feels realistic. You can stand it at first. If the beloved were an angel, then this view would be the nameless spirit that watches from afar, halfway between heaven's celestial light and dull Archeron. It is not necessary to sanctify the gods in order to live. The suddenly vast surroundings that open out among your features like pools of quicksilver. Hours that seem like minutes. Invitations to spend time with strangers in unknown places. No more disappointing orgasms, intentional symbols, gestures that time stand away. No more of the group's reluctance to fully celebrate anything new. And you know, at last, the condition of weightlessness and everything
It implies the future, the present, and most of all, the past into which you now slip helplessly no longer prevented by the
grid of everyday language, remaining in suspension in that greenish aquarium light, which is your new element, compelled to reenact the same scene in the old park with snow on the ground and waiting looks on the faces of the nearest buildings some distance away. All this is the interest of getting at the truth. All this in the interest of getting at the truth.
Horror, abjection, liberal regret, gods that fail, fin de siècle aspiration, anxiety over lineal destruction, anxiety over natalism, sunny days, hurricanes, garbage flying in London, murder tent, simplification, hating things and embracing it, eating hate, rehabilitated baked goods, taboo and press releases, wearable meme, stalled singing career, contrariana. I'm thinking of a lot of things. Pronunciation dysphoria, anchorite streamer, micro-reactionary, unidirectional bloating versus omnidirectional bloating, prestige pawn installment plan, catharsis, Ursula von der Leyen, sometimes vibrating with rage feels realistic.
crystallization into a mountain of statistics. Out of the rapid movement to and fro from that braided individual personalities. The problems of concern to the artistic critique are less directly accessible than those relating to the social critique, which are visible in the growth of begging and the proliferation of homeless people, or legend of the increase of unemployment, job insecurity, and inequalities. We can nevertheless detect signs of stress, expressed in literature and figurative arts, which in the writings of social reformer emerge from the theme of a loss of meaning. For our part, we should use the term anxiety, borrowed from Laurent Thevenot's book. This encapsulates an unease associated with the difficulty of identifying the origin of the threat and making plans to control it. No doubt, it is what Durkheim called the indicators of enemy that we must seek to trace as anxieties created by the emergence of a connectionist world. The distinctions introduced by Durkheim in Suicide allow for greater clarity about enemy. In particular, he differentiates between the effects of enemy and those of growth of egoism, where egoistic suicide is situated on an axis whose other pole is occupied by altruistic suicide. Anomic suicide, deriving from the waning of rules and norms, is situated on an axis whose other pole is occupied by fatalistic suicide. Without positioning a direct cause and effect relation between the problem of establishing enduring professional links and phenomena marking a profound change in the sphere of private relations, we cannot but wonder about the concomitance of alterations of the life cycle of work and affecting familiar life cycles, late entry into working life, and the substitution of ad hoc jobs for modes of integration that open up the prospect of a career reduction in the number of marriages and the rise in divorce, but also by the growing fragility of relationships without legal documents, defined as cohabitation.
Horror, abjection, liberal regret, gods that failed, fin de siècle aspiration, anxiety over lineal destruction, anxiety over natalism, sunny days, hurricanes, garbage flying in London, murder tents, simplification, hating things and embracing it, eating hate, rehabilitated baked goods, taboo press releases, wearable memes, stalled singing career, contrariana. I'm thinking of a lot of things. Pronunciation, dysphoria, anchorite schemer, micro-reactionary, unidirectional floating versus omnidirectional floating, prestige pawn installment plan, catharsis, Ursula von der Leyen, sometimes vibrating like rage feels realistic. Oswald reads,
One cannot have.
that this is primarily informed by a concern to exclude any assimilation of two rather compatible, even similar ways of denouncing the modern condition in the grip of technology. Take, for example, Dialectic of Enlightenment, whose first edition dates
1847, in the language Marxist echoes, the language echoes, but in the inner it is that but it is technically compatible with the Heideggerian thematic of inauthenticity, or at least with the way this thematic has generally been understood.
Torgel and Horkheimer condemn the consensual leveling of the conformist domination of society that has made its goal the destruction of any difference. They aim to pursue the radical critique of massification and standardization affecting every democratic existence to a conclusion. This standardization extends to language, transforming words, even proper nouns, into capricious, manipulable
Whose effects are legally non-calculable and intended to
conditioned reflections, as was in the case of advertising trademarks. Totalitarianism and fascism were thus treated as extremes of advanced capitalism that disclose its truth. Thus, advertising is simply
totalitarian advertising in the service of omnipotent truth, in the service of omnipotent trust, identified with a man.
propaganda in the service of totalitarian states. In each instance, the individual, dissolved into the mass, is no longer anything but an illusion. Ursula von der Leyen.
Ursula von der Leyen.
Remember when media was just a thing? Or just talking about media as a thing was enough to get you a professorship at a reasonably sized university? Leeds, McAllister, Prague. George W.S. Trow wrote whole works on television. Now, there's Twitter, but there isn't Twitter anymore. Media is everywhere now. Media is everywhere now. There's no distinction between it and the world it mediates. Because the media is meant to be consumed. Media is you, and it is for you. Media feels like it asks nothing of you. Media doesn't need turbulence. Media doesn't need a source anymore. Media doesn't need to coerce anymore. Media doesn't need to seduce anymore. Media doesn't need a substance to feed on. Mr. Beast is you. In a capitalist universe, this division is essential. Persons and personal relations alike are morally, and to a great extent legally, considered to be non-commodifiable, and those who are taught openly to transgress this norm are subject to virtually universal condemnation. Now, it is in part the logic of capitalism to place this norm under strain, the displacement of the boundary between capital and non-capital. That is to say, the commodification of goods and services that had hitherto eluded the market, playing a significant role in the pursuit of accumulation. But if these displacements, which impinge on the principles on which everyday judgments are based, are to be made acceptable, they require rearrangements in the relationship between profit and labor. Age of the commodification of difference, one task is obviously unavoidable on the authenticity front, restricting the extension of the commodity sphere, particularly in the direction of a commodification of the human. As we have seen, the commodification of the human was favored in the framework of the projected city by the erasure of the boundaries between the spheres of self-interest and disinterestedness. Whether this involves generating profit by creating products obtained through the coding of personal human qualities, or even using the human body as one kind of material among others. Media makes no sense if it's not you. Media is a corporation, Otherwise, you are a brand. Things are not unrelated. Media is a corporation. Otherwise, you are a brand. These things are not unrelated. Logic is irrelevant. Logics are. There's no need to believe when experience is true. There never was an outside world. The media now recognizes this, so the duty is not to bring the world to you, but to be inside you when you receive the world, and to organize the world. The world can be for you. Knowing isn't interesting. Knowing isn't interesting. Belief is only interesting when it becomes ideology. No one wants to be outside of the media.
If you're being lied to, at least that's a form of attention. Lying is proof of your existence. You might suddenly believe it does matter. You might see posts around you announcing that all the world is training data. God isn't dead, he just hasn't been born. If something is If something is designed to be dysfunctional, can it ever break? Fame is a form
of death.
Nobody reads anymore, only the body. Only the body can do arithmetic. No one needs to spell anymore. A computer can do it better, with greater cultural sensitivity than hoped for. A computer can do it better. A computer can do it better. A computer can do it better, with more cultural sensitivity than hoped for. A crisp is a form of technology. A joke wearing thin is an example of entropy in an open system. I watch scenes set in London and look for myself in the background. I piece the city together from its representations. We need a robot that hates itself, digital neurosis, erotic instinct as thematic interest.
A robot who hates
himself.
a robot
Who hates himself.
Television is the force of no history, and it holds the archives of the history of no history. Television is a mystery. Certain of its properties are known, though it has a scale. Television has a scale. It has other properties, but what television has to a dominant degree is a certain scale and the power to enforce it. No one has been able to describe the scale as it is experienced. We know some of its properties, though. Television does not vary. The trivial is raised up to power. The powerful is lowered towards trivial. The power behind it resembles the power of no action. The powerful is passive. It is bewitching. It interferes with growth, conflict, and destruction. It interferes with growth, conflict, and destruction, and these forces are different in its presence. In the new history, the preference of a child carried as much weight as the preference of an adult. So the refining of preferences was subtracted from what it was necessary for a man. So the refining of preferences was subtracted from what it was necessary for a man to learn to do.
a robot.
What hates himself. We need
The writing exercise based on a Joe Brainerd poem called I Remember.
You just list things you remember. You don't actually have to remember them. People will believe you. The form makes the poem true. The world makes sense. The world is for you. The world makes sense if someone else is using it. They took it from you. You don't need to be able to act. Maybe you should stop worrying. Maybe you should start worrying. Maybe
you should have an idea about meditation, mediation. Maybe you should have an idea about mediation as being, mediation precedes being. You don't need to be alive to act. Horror, abjection, liberal regret, gods that fail, fin de siècle aspiration, anxiety over pretty much everything now. Sunny days, it doesn't really get sunny these days. Garbage, there's a lot of garbage. I noticed the curve of the croissants in the Toad Bakery the other day. They didn't seem quite as curvy as maybe they had been in the past. I'm not really sure, and of course, the idea that I might have actually taken some kind of calibrating tool and asked, or perhaps just taken one and gone home with it and then measured it, suggests how far gone everything seems to be now. That there are people who would have done that, and maybe even under slightly different circumstances, I would have been one of those people. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, or just a sign that you're getting older and judgmental in some fundamental way. Murder tends simplification, normalizations, the halting problem, hating things, embracing the hate, taboo in press releases, reading press releases all day, pretty much every day. The jargon, the endless references to Deleuze and whoever the person of the moment or persons might be. At a certain level, I don't begrudge anyone working in those salt mines. I know how it feels. I've tasted that salt. I've chipped away at that salt. And now, as I conclude this year, all I can think about is how many people's names I've misproduced over the course of it. I think I said misproduced, not mispronounced. This is how it is. thoughts from a year. Some are mine, some are borrowed, some I persuaded myself to believe. And that's what it's about. Belief. Belief and power and ignorance and violence and laundering all or most of the aforesaid. And so this ends, and the rest is silence. Not because I ran out of material. There's a lot. I'm happy to recycle it, actually. Write to me at my website, which is www.fuckthisimbecellereality.fuckingcom.com. It's confusing, but what can I say? The rest is silence. Thank you. Thank you, silence. I think that's how it ends.